Okay, howdy and welcome back. So the adjacency list representation's pretty cool because it's kind of putting together this idea of maybe a vector in a linked list to represent the edges presenting within some graph G. So we're going to see kind of two data structures leveraged here, opposed to the single two-dimensional either vector array that would have been used to implement an adjacency matrix representation of the edges presenting in our graph. So same graph here on the left, just a different representation. We can see that we have a one-dimensional array, which is shown right here. Its indexes 0 through v minus 1 are going to correspond to our vertexes labeled 0 through v minus 1. So remember that naming scheme up here. And this is where the power of this is derived from. If we're using names for each vertex as 0 through v minus 1, we can naturally represent or somehow store something associated with a specific vertex within an array indexed, 0 through v minus 1, and that array would be of size v. So that's what we're doing here. And what is this array going to store? Pointers into a linked list. Now here's where it becomes cool. Okay, so let's say you want to know what nodes, or sorry if I've been using nodes instead of vertex, what vertices are adjacent to vertex 0. Well, we would go ahead and look up that vertex's list of edges. So we'd go out to this location in the array, follow the pointer into the singly linked list, and we'd begin iteration. Until we hit the null pointer, we're observing edges that are incident to this node. So here we can see that node or vertex 0 is connected to the vertex with the label of 1. And then we've arrived at the null pointer. So we know that that particular vertex had a single edge or vertex adjacent to it. Now let's say we wanted to look up what vertices are adjacent, vertices, are adjacent to vertex with the label of 1. Well, we'd go to this location and do our array or vector or whatever it is and follow that pointer into a singly linked list. And we'd begin iterating through that linked list. First one we'd pull out here would be some sort of node that's telling us that 1 is connected to 0. We'd move on to the next node within this linked list, and we'd notice that, hey, 1 is also connected to 4. We're not at the null pointer yet, so we'd continue on this journey, and we'd arrive at the next node, which is going to tell us that 1 is also connected to the vertex with the label 3. And at this point, if we try to go next, we're at the null pointer. So we've essentially iterated through and observed each node that is adjacent to our node with the label of 1. So notice here how this is different from the matrix representation. If you look up here, essentially both connections and non-connections were stored. In this particular representation, this two-dimensional matrix here, if ij was 0, that would communicate that no edge was incident between I and j. However, if there was a 1 there, that would be encoding or telling us, communicating to us that there was an edge between some vertices I and j. So notice here it's double the information because we're both kind of encoding the on and the off, the connection and the non-connection. This is very different than this list notation where we are only storing the connections that exist and not finding a particular node or vertice within a linked list is going to tell us that there's no connection between, say, 1 and 5, because as we iterated through 1's adjacency list, we did not find a entry communicating to us that 5 was adjacent to 1. Notice here, however, the implications of this is, if I ask you, is 1 adjacent to 5, we have to go into the linked list, the adjacency list for 1, for vertex 1, and we have to follow those next pointers and observe the value stored in each node and go, is it 5? Is it 5? Is it 5? And we only know that there is no connection between 1 and 5 until we hit the null pointer and haven't observed 5. This is very different than indexing in at location, say 1, 5 in a two-dimensional array, that's direct access. We'd go directly to that spot. There's no like following pointers and jumping through memory. No, we're right there, and if we see a 1, we know there's a connection. If we don't, we know there's not, which is one of the reasons why we said that an adjacency matrix is nice if we really need to quickly determine whether a connection exists between two vertices. Because again, here, you got to do some walking to arrive at either a yes or a no response to that question. It's not that direct access. So let me continue on here. I know I almost neglected this slide last time. We won't do so this time. So the adjacency list representation of some graph G with a set of vertices and a set of edges consists of an array, which is essentially going to hold, so it's going to be an array of size, number of vertices, of pointers to essentially some sort of linked list data structure. So each vertex is going to have its own adjacency list. For each vertex from this set of vertices, a particular adjacency list is going to contain all the vertices V such that there is an edge between, say, U and V. So in that list, if we want to see, okay, what is who's adjacent to vertex 1? Well, we could go to that location in our adjacency list, our adjacency array, to get access to 1's adjacency list. Once we've got into that list, we could begin looking in for each entry in the exist. So if this is U, for each V, that's effectively communicating that there exists an edge between 1, 0, 1, 4, 1, 3, etc. for each of our vertex. While this sub-representation uses less memory than an adjacency matrix, we must search the adjacency list to determine whether a connection exists between two vertices. So notice it's kind of a story of trade-offs, right? There's some cool performance implications of using an adjacency matrix, but there's also some profound implications of using an adjacency list. Let's go ahead and look into that a bit more further here in our graph representation alternatives revisited video, which is the last video in this series.